Welcome everybody to the Wake Up Call channel. The world is holding its breath, awaiting the response from Israel to Iran's attack. That is the headlines that are all over the place after the missiles were supposedly sent off from Iranians into Israel. And now, of course, we're going to wait for a response. Even the IDL gave us a video on their YouTube channel letting us know that there were plans in the works. But of course, the world stage has to continue to play out so they could build this up and build this up. And of course, it's looking more and more like Donald Trump is going to be playing a major role in what happens moving forward. So while we wait for the response, there's another big narrative out there that you're going to quietly hear without actually thinking about why are they even asking you this. And that is, what side are you on? Allies need to pick a side. Citizens need to pick a side. Kind of reminds me of the left-right paradigm, right? We've talked about this and how the left and the right hate each other so much in every country right now. But the civilians who say that they're not going to vote and not participate in this, they hate even more. They can't believe that you won't pick a side. They can't believe that you won't participate in their game. And this is a big factor moving forward. How countries align themselves. I talked about that with the UN staged walkout when Netanyahu spoke, how all these world leaders suddenly are turned against Israel. Israel, who always is the victim. Well, in this instance, Israel is the catalyst, and Iran are the catalyst to bring about World War III. But you might say to yourself, well, World War III, what do I care about what's going on over there? I live in America. What do I care? I live in the UK. Well, you're not supposed to actually care, but you will care because your governments have to get involved. And if your governments have to get involved, the civilians are going to also believe that they have to get involved. And they will. Like I discussed with Republicans, they'll be involved because they believe that the state of Israel, the military-industrial compound of Israel, is aligned with biblical Israel. And they're not. So they'll be duped into siding with Israel. Democrats will be duped into siding with Palestine and Iran, but don't forget, they'll still defend anybody who exposes the state of Israel for what they are because they can't have that. So they will censor that and call that anti-you-know-what speech. So they're going to make you choose a side. And those are the headlines that have already begun since the missiles were fired. Which countries support Iran? Which countries support Israel amid World War III fears? And why does this matter? It matters for a lot of reasons. What's that other narrative that's out there that they want us to pay attention to? Well, they talk a lot about the climate, and they also talk about how we need to transition away from oil. Well, this is a good start for us, and this is a good start for most countries, right? Because Iran is really one of the leaders in producing oil. So countries who side against Iran are going to have their oil supplies cut off, which means you're once again not only going to be paying more at the pump, but you're likely going to get forced into rations. Now, Americans will say, well, why don't we pump our own oil? Well, they've been asking that for a while, and the government continues to not pump their own oil because they want everybody to transition to green energy because green energy is controllable. Natural gas and oil give civilians the ability to still wander and roam freely. They want everything under control. Every aspect of your life they want control over, as crazy as that sounds. So whoever sides with Israel is probably going to begin to have problems with importing oil, which is exactly, this works perfectly for everything that they want anyway, and that's part of the design, right? Whoever sides with Iran will have shortages in things that Israel produces, which is like electrical machinery and equipment, appliances, chemical products. So you're going to begin to see shortages, okay? And they've been talking about this quietly underneath the surface since October of last year when this all began. They've been preparing you for this with global oil supply being at risk if these two countries go to war. Well, it's inevitable that they're going to go to war because it's all staged and scripted for them to go to war. So I like this model that's out there where literally they call it the empire wants you to pick a side. The globalist establishment, which controls everything, wants you to pick either actor A or actor B in their fabricated conflict perfectly describes what's going on. Globalist, orchestrated dialectic. You pick a side, you participate in the game. That's what they want. And really, it's working, because you would say, well, then I won't play in the game. But all of the people who play in the game are demanding that you pick a side and play in the game. In fact, they've gone out of their way to try to lump us in as conspiracy theorists, whatever they like to call us, even though it's very clear that nations are conspiring together against the citizens. The people out there are hell-bent on us participating and choosing a side, and the government themselves are literally trying to throw us into the alt-right side, the extreme right side, that anybody who's a Christian has to be conservative, and anybody who talks about conspiracy has to be a conservative as well. So while most people don't realize this, what this ends up leading to with World War III, because a lot of young teenagers hear this and they're like, who cares, right? It's not happening up the road for me. It's not happening in America. They don't realize that when America gets pulled into this, which I said in the video I did recently, which will likely be an attack on America. They don't need to do that to pull America in, but psychologically they need to do that to pull American civilians in, like they did during the 11th day of September. So they don't actually need to do anything to get America's participation, but they have to make sure that you want America to participate. So there will likely be a strike from Iran in U.S. soil, or on, U.S. soil, that will lead the U.S. to getting involved in this. And don't forget how recently they started pumping that narrative out there about leaked hidden footage of the Saudis being involved in the 11th day of September. It just tells you how inverted of a world it is. For them to tell everybody that the Saudis are involved, most of these conservatives believe it, and they don't even realize the people behind it are the same ones that they will lay their lives down for, who are a part of a military-industrial compound, who claim to be something they are not, right? Which are, again, are the synagogue of Satan themselves. So that narrative is also out there with the Saudis. They brought that narrative out there for a reason, as they continue to plant seeds for a potential attack on U.S. soil. And then some of the other stuff that's out there is literally everybody in the mainstream is saying that America must side with Israel. As much as the liberal media is trying to play the Democrats into pro-Palestine, they will bring them in to be pro-Israel. And in that Mazzini letter between Mazzini and Albert Pike, don't forget, with all the stuff that's in there, with destroying Christianity, with bringing about the doctrine of Lucifer, there's something in there that people need to remember. And that's the quote, "Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion," which means all countries will have to be involved in this third world war. All countries are going to feel impacts financially. There's going to be a lot of rationing and a lot of shortages that they're going to blame on this war. They tried to do that early on with the stuff going on in Ukraine, with Ukraine and Russia. Remember how we were having food supply shortages, and they're telling us that all of our wheat supply came from Ukraine, and a lot of people were scratching their heads because they were saying, well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, don't we grow wheat in America, right? Well, this time around, they'll make sure that you know when the prices of gas are probably $10 a gallon, $12 a gallon, and then they start calling for rationing. They'll let you know that it's all Iran's fault. But if you pay attention, their blueprint all along, the globalist blueprint, the people who are responsible, trying to force you into picking actor A or actor B, the people responsible for this orchestrated dialectic, they're the ones who want to remove oil in the first place. So what better way to do it, especially for Americans? Americans are the ones they want to bring to their knees immediately. Americans are the ones they want to force immediately into this green energy. And they've already seen pushback from many in America who laugh at the electric vehicles, who are actually aware that these things are like ticking time bombs. The lithium batteries in them are exploding in people's garages. Not to mention the fact that on a cold winter's day, your electric vehicle is highly likely to not turn on and be conked. So people have become aware. More and more people are going, yeah, I don't know if I want to transition into that. Well, they're going to force you into it one way or the other. So this will give them another excuse to say, look, you haven't gotten rid of your gas-powered car? Well, we're going to have a shortage of imports in a lot of different areas. Well, one of them is going to be oil. So there isn't going to be gas. So you're not going to be able to drive that gas-powered car. And on top of all those things that we've heard, of course, Donald Trump is the big mystery lingering around, right? Trump says we're very close to a global catastrophe, and we are very close on the brink of World War III, which makes this seem more and more likely that by putting him back in power, that we will head to this world war with Donald Trump at the helm. Now, I felt all along that I thought that the Democrats would stay in power, but it's starting to look with the stuff in Israel and Donald Trump that it might be aligned this way to bring us to World War III, especially since one of the other talking points they keep mentioning is that during Trump's 4 years of office, we never went to war. We never had any conflicts with other countries. They keep saying that, which makes you believe that if they put him in power, obviously we're going to go to war. They're telling us that almost as a way of saying, well, Trump will bring peace. And of course, maybe it'll be sudden destruction. So right now, what they want you to do is look at everything going on and they want you to participate. They want you, while we're waiting for the retaliation, they want you to choose between actor A and actor B. And if anybody out there chooses not to participate, they'll call on the hounds like they always do, because all of these people who support either political party literally are more bothered by the fact that people refuse to believe that your vote counts, or refuse to believe in either political party as the answer to our problems. These people don't even realize how brainwashed they are on the conservative side as well, that they're angry about the fact that people like us see this for what it really is, and they don't. They're getting duped into this, and they're going to want you to choose a side. You'll probably eventually hear a next door neighbor, someone up the road do it. You'll probably start seeing a lot of people in America, just like we saw and currently see with these people with the Ukraine flag, start flying Israeli flags as well. And you'll see Christians doing it also. All of the people, of course, have a zero idea of what is actually occurring. So keep an eye on the stories about who aligns with who, especially with drawing America into World War III with countries like Russia and China. Because remember, all of a sudden, that narrative has flipped as well with Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. The narrative constantly had been that they're buddies, they're very much alike. And then Putin came out and said that he supports the Democratic Party. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's not what he really said, that the media is trying to alter it. Well, they're trying to give you the opinion now, whether he said it or not, that him and Trump are no longer aligned with one another. And to bring about absolute chaos, you have China, Russia, and Iran against America and Israel, all of which are working together, of course. But then they have an excuse to start blowing up buildings in the United States of America, blaming it on the other countries, which again would be our own country doing it from the inside, because they're working together. Mossad's working with the CIA. The intel agencies are all working together to do this. Putin is working with Trump. Putin is working with, but all of them are in cahoots. That's why they're moving forward now, because it's completely compromised. Everybody seems to forget about Vladimir Putin being hand-selected by the World Economic Forum. Remember that speech where Klaus talked about how Putin was groomed and trained by them? What do you think? He went rogue? He's just going against them? They have to create heroes and villains on both sides to make this thing work. There's obviously going to be people who are acting out in the public like they're opposed to the World Economic Forum, like Trump pretends to be or Putin pretends to be anti-New World Order, because they need to make sure that the civilians don't say, hey, wait a minute, all these governments are now working together against us. We need to rise up against it. They want you to support specific leaders in specific countries, thinking that there's a chance that you might have to beat this New World Order, but really they're all working together against you. And watch the stories about the resources. Watch other countries, who they align with, and suddenly places like India. Who does India align with? Oh, is North Korea aligning with Iran? Well, oh boy, we got to watch, because now they're going to cut supplies off. And they planted those seeds as well with the Ukraine-Russia narrative, right? Remember how we were cutting off supplies to Russia? We weren't allowing Russia to do business with American companies anymore. This is the new game that they're playing. And it's not to hurt one another, it's to hurt you. It's to hurt us, to make sure that there's shortages in stores, prices are increased, and rationing is the name of the game here. Because during these world wars, they always bring about rationing. And they've already conditioned you into it. Like during the outbreak, they started conditioning people to get used to not having toilet paper. Or if a store had toilet paper, well, you had the ration. You only got one thing of toilet paper, right? You're only allowed to buy one of these or one of those. Rationing is what's next. They're going to bring our quality of life down and down and down until they turn America into a third world country, which is what the goal of the globalists is. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you as always and your families.